This conference will now be recorded.
So in the last session, we have discussed about asynchronous programming, and we have discussed what exactly the asynchronous operations we have discussed, and what are the problems with the synchronous operations, and how can we implement those functionalities with the help of asynchronous operations so that we can save the time, we can utilize the resources very efficiently by introducing the queue inside that. Okay, and we have discussed how the asynchronous operations will perform now. So in order to implement that asynchronous operations which are executing outside of your organization, not within our organization, these are always executing outside of the organization by placing inside the Salesforce queue. Salesforce is providing a queue called as Apex queue, which is available outside of your organization, not as part of my organization. These are outside of my organization. Salesforce is maintaining a queue that is called as Apex queue. So that Apex queue will be common to all the organizations across all the region servers. Any organization member can able to push some jobs into the queue so that it will be getting executed based on the availability of Salesforce resources. Based on the server availability, based on the resource availability, Salesforce will pick up that job from the queue. It will start executing that. Once the job has been processed successfully, it will send the response back to the user through an email notifications. Now, so in this case, whenever if you want to execute some jobs by placing inside the queue, then we have to go with that asynchronous operation. That means asynchronous means what? Parallel. In your organization, keep on we can able to initiate some request, and at the back end outside of the organization, Salesforce is going to processing your request by placing inside the queue. So there is no impact on your organization because both are executing parallelly. Your operations are performing inside your organization, batch jobs are executing outside of your organization, so that there is no impact on your organization. We can able to continue to initiate the request, okay, and from your organization. That possibility is available with the help of asynchronous operations. So as part of asynchronous operations, we can perform these asynchronous operations by using the 5 features. Salesforce has given 5 features, okay, as part of this asynchronous programming. First one is batch processing, that is also called as batch programming or batch Apex. Second one, schedule programming. Third one, flex queues. The fourth one, future methods. And the fifth one, queuable interface, or is also called as queuable Apex. These are the 5 features has been given by Salesforce through which we can able to achieve the asynchronous operations in Salesforce. Then how can we use each and every feature in order to perform the asynchronous operations which will be executing outside of my organization? Now let's see practically one by one. So as part of this asynchronous operations, first we'll go with that batch programming, that is also called as batch Apex. So what exactly the batch Apex? What exactly the process of batch Apex? How it is processing the bulk records? How can we split them to the various small batches? And what will be those batch sizes? And how these batches are executing? And how Salesforce is going to be passing each and every batch record to be get processed. At the end of the completion, how do we know how many batches are there inside my processing? How many batches has been processed by Salesforce server? And how many batches has been failed? I want to track this everything. How can we implement this functionality? Now let's see with the help of batch programming. Okay, now. So now let's see in this case, how can we implement the batch programming inside your Salesforce instance? Okay, how can we implement the batch programming inside your Salesforce instance? Now let's see practically here. Okay, so for the last row, is my voice is audible? Or let's come to the front. Okay, now, for example, assume that I want to perform the operations on my records. Like for example, I want to update the records. Now tell me what are the various ways are available to update the records. Tell me your approach, your ways to update the records. By using page layout. That means tab. With the help of tab, can't we update the record? Yes. How many records we can update? Only one. Okay. Only one record we can able to update. By using the tab, by using the page layout, we can perform the operations on only one record at a time. We can create only one record. We can modify only one record. We can delete only one record at a time, not multiple. Now, suppose for example, I want to process more number of records. That means I want to create more records. I want to update more records. I want to delete more records at a time. How can we do that? In this case, we can use that Apex programming. Through Apex programming, with the help of the DML statements, we can able to perform the operations on multiple records at a time. Okay. Now, in this case, by using each DML statement, how many records we can process? By using each DML statement, how many records we can process? Only one. We are using bulkification. DML statements are 150. By using each DML statement, how many records I can process? Number of records can be processed through by using single DML statement. 1000, 10,000. Okay, 10,000 records. By using each DML statement, we can process maximum of 10,000 records. Inside a single transaction, we can use maximum of 150 DML statements. By using each DML statement, we can process maximum of 10,000 records, not more than that. Now, that means 10,000, 10,000, 10,000 like that, we need to process it. Suppose, for example, I'm having some lakhs of records to be get processed. Then what we can do? Any other alternative mechanisms? A database in the sense what? Database that? What is to fetch the data? I want to insert DMLs. Insertion, updation, deletion, data loader. Before that data loader, do we have any other feature? Import wizard. I'm talking about DML statements, not SOQLs. Okay. Now, import wizard. Through import wizard, how many records you can able to process? 50,000. Import wizard will allow you to process 50,000 records. Okay. Now, the people are refreshing the mind every day. Now, import wizard. We can use that import wizard. Through that import wizard, we can able to process maximum of 50,000 records. That too, this import wizard will allow me to perform only import operations. That means insert and update, not the remaining operations. Now, that means we need to process 50,000, 50,000, 50,000 like that. Okay, but in case I'm having some lakhs of records are available, 20 lakhs records are there, 50 lakhs records are there, 1 crore records are available. How can we process this one? Data loader. Data loader. By using data loader, how many records we can able to process here? 5 million records. That means 50 lakhs records we need to process. Okay, 50 lakhs records we can able to process by using data loader. Okay, now that means what? 50 lakhs, 50 lakhs, 50 lakhs we need to process. But in some cases, I'm having some crores of records. Then what we can do? In this case, we can go with a feature called as batch programming. Batch programming. By using this batch programming, how many records we can process? By using batch programming, we can able to process maximum of 50 million records. That means the 5 crore records we can able to process at a time. Okay, we can able to process 5 crore records at a time. That possibility is available. That means what? Whenever if there is a situation, okay, whenever there is a situation to process that bulk records, to process the millions of records, to process more number of records at that time, we can go with that batch programming. With the help of batch programming, we can able to process maximum of 50 million records. That means 5 crore records we can able to process. Now, sometimes I would like to process some billions of records. How? I want to process some billions of records at that time. Salesforce is not having any other alternative as part of Apex programming. Then we have to go with that app exchange tools. Okay, app exchange tools, or we can contact that Salesforce partners. We can contact the Salesforce partners. So Salesforce partners are having the various tools. Through those tools, they are going to be processing the billions of records also. Or else you can use some data warehousing tools like as Informatica Cloud. Because when you go to that banking, finance, manufacturing, healthcare, at that time, they're dealing with some millions of transactions per day. They may be having millions of customers who are utilizing their services from different locations, from different countries. At that time, they will be getting some billions of transactions per day. So every day, transactions has backup. Because suddenly, if the server has been down because of some environmental problem, if the server has been crashed, then data will get lost. For that one, keep on they're taking that backup of the data here. So not only taking 10,000 records as backup, not only taking 1 lakh records as backup, they're taking that billions of records as backup per day. So that if something went wrong for that entire server, they can use that backup copy so that there is no chance of losing the data. For that reason, when you go to some large enterprises, they are dealing with that records in terms of billions. So millions of records also they are going to processing every day. At that time, okay, we have to use that some alternative tools also, like as Informatica Cloud, or else you can use some web, like as data warehousing tools, like as a Data Stage, Cognos, Business Objects. We can use the various tools, or else Salesforce is providing some app exchange tools also available. Some third-party organizations are offering that app exchange tools. Through that, we can able to process some bulk records, or else you can contact the Salesforce partners also. We can contact the Salesforce partners. Those people will be having the various tools through which they can able to process some billions of records also. That possibility is available. So depends upon the number of records you are going to process, we have to use that respective option. If you're processing only 1 record at a time, go with that page layout. If you want to process 10,000 records at a time, go with that Apex programming with the help of DML statements. If you want to process 50,000 records at a time, go with import wizards. If you want to process millions of records, go with the data loader. If you're processing more than 5 million records, then you can go with that batch programming. Depends upon your requirement, we have to select that any one of that approach based on the number of records you are going to process. That means frequency of your data. Okay, frequency of your data, we have to choose any one of these options to perform the operations on your object records. Now, so in this case, okay, now in this case, as of now, you know how to use this page layouts, how to use this Apex programming, how to use this data loader, all these things you are aware of. Now let's see how can we use this batch programming. How to use this batch programming in order to process some millions of records at a time. Okay, how to process millions of records. Now let's see practically in this case. Now, by using this batch programming, we can process some millions of records. That means whenever if you want to do the operations on some bulk records, millions of records at that time, we have to use that batch programming feature that is also called as batch Apex. Okay, now by using this batch programming, we can perform that long running operations. Long running operations means what? Which will take more time to process, because which involves more number of records processing, which contains a complex transactional flows, which contains some transaction business logics are available. So at that time, whenever if you want to implement any long running operations, then we have to go with that batch programming, which will be executing outside of your organization by placing inside that Salesforce queue. Why? Because these kind of long running operations are executing inside my organization till the completion of that operation. It won't allow you to perform any other operation, because your system will go into the read-only state automatically. Okay, your system will go into the read-only state. You can't perform any other operation. We can't click on any other button control. You can't initiate any other actions. So for that one, I don't want to execute that operation within my organization. I want to execute outside of my organization by placing inside that Salesforce queue, so that it will be executing in the background process. I will be continuing with my work as it is, so that there is no impact on my daily operations. There is no impact on my regular operations inside my organization, so that I can continue with my work. It will do its operation by its own outside of my organization by placing inside that Salesforce queue. So at that time, whenever if you want to perform some long running operations, at that time we can go with that batch programming, which involves some millions of records processing. Okay. Now, in this case, how this batch programming will be performing the operations on millions of records? How it is performing the operations on millions of records? By dividing part by part here. Okay. Now, in this case here, for example, why it is dividing by part by part? Why? Then why server can do that millions of transactions also? Okay.
That's why it is making batches. Anything is anything is wrong. One batch is maybe discarded or it may be sleep or and all the processes.
Okay. Now, so in this case here, observe this one. Why? Because is when coming to that batch programming, batch means what? A small piece. Okay, a small piece which will be holding some set of records inside this batch programming. Okay, the description is there in the name itself. That means what? Whenever you are processing some bulk records, whenever you are performing the operations on some millions of records, at that time all the millions of records cannot be considered inside a single transaction. Why? Because as part of the transaction policy, whenever I'm going to performing some operations inside the transaction, if any of the operation has been failed, what about the transaction? Roll back. That means all the previous operations will be getting cancelled. For example, I'm going to be updating some 10 lakhs records. Okay, 10 lakhs records. So at that time, whenever I'm updating all the 10 lakh records, almost 9 lakhs records has been updated successfully. 9 lakh one record is updating, but it is failed. It is failed to update here. There is a problem in that one. Maybe I missed that value of for one of the mandatory field. Might be I have supplied some invalid value also. Might be on that record I may not be having the proper rights to update that record. So now when I try to update that 9 lakh one record, that record has been failed. Because of that single record, previous all the 9 lakh record operations will be getting cancelled. Then again we need to reprocess those records again and again and again. So if I'm reprocessing the records, it will take again more time. So in the second time also, there is no guarantee that all the records will be processed successfully. Might be some other records may be getting failed. So in this case, I don't want to perform these operations again and again and again. I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to waste my resources. So instead of considering all the records inside a single transaction, I would like to split them to the various small pieces. Whatever the records on which you want to perform the operations, those records I would like to split them to the various small pieces, that each piece is called as a batch. Okay, that each piece is called as a batch, which will be holding some set of records. Okay, which will be holding some set of records. Now, in this case, how this batch processing will be executing internally here? What will be the operations it will be doing internally? Now let's say practically in this case. Okay, now. So now when coming to that batch concept, batch programming concept is not a new concept. It's a regular concept which we are doing every day 3 times in our home. Okay, it's a regular concept here which we are doing 3 times regularly in our day, in our home. Now, like for example, let me explain that general scenario so that you can understand more. How can we relate that general scenario with this batch programming concept? Now, for example, come to a general scenario. Assume that I'm having a small family. Okay, I'm having a small family here. So in my family, I'm having the 4 people are there. It's a small family. The parents are available with the 2 kids. They're having 4 members are there. For example, we are having that 4 members in the family. We are having that 4 people are there. In this family, we are having that 4 members. We are having that 4 members. Okay, 4 members are there inside this family here. Now, so now every day 3 times they're preparing the food for these family members. Okay, for all these 4 members, they're preparing the food for these family members every day 3 times. Now tell me, for every person they're preparing the food separately, or they will prepare the food for all the people inside a single bowl itself? Single bowl. Okay. Now in this case, what will happen? They are going to preparing the food for all the family members, okay, in a single bowl itself. So now they would like to have that a bowl. In that one, they're preparing that food. So they're preparing the food in a single bowl for that all these 4 family members. For all these 4 family members, they're preparing that food here. They're preparing the food for all these family members inside that single bowl itself. Okay. Now assume that. Now, so now in this case, so once the food is ready, what the people will do generally here. Now, for example, it's a lunch time. Now in this case, what the people will do basically here. Now in this case, all the 4 people will sit together. They would like to have that lunch. Now, for example, it's a lunch time. So now we are having that 4 people. All these 4 people will sit together. They are going to be having that lunch. Now, they would like to have the lunch here. So in this case, the food is ready inside that bowl. They would like to collect the food from the bowl. They would like to place inside that plate here. Assume that, for example, they're having that plate. So they're having their own plate. Each and every person is having their own plates are available. So these people are going to be collecting that food from the bowl. They are going to placing inside that. Now, so they're having that plate. So everybody will be having their own plate. So each and every person is having their own plate. Now they would like to collect the food, okay, from the bowl. So in this case, all the 4 people will sit together. They are going to be collecting the food from that plate, and then they are going to placing that food inside that bowl. Whatever the food they need, they are going to placing inside that plate over here. Whatever the food they need, they are going to be collecting that food from the bowl, and they are going to placing inside that plate. Okay. Now, so now once the food is available inside the plate, then as a person, can you have the whole food at a time? No. Then what we can do? We have to take that piece by piece. That means what? Whatever the food that I'm having inside my plate, now this entire food I'm going to be dividing into the various small pieces. Okay. That this entire food I'm going to be dividing into the various small pieces here. So once the food has been getting dividing into the various small pieces, then we can take that first piece of food, we can have it. And then second piece, we can have it, so that we can continue this process till that entire plate is empty. Okay, this is the process we are going to be happening in this case here. Now, so in this case, what happened? Whenever we are having some large entity, that means large objects are available at that time. So now we can't process all the records at a time. Okay, we can process all the records at a time. Like for example, now let's see in this case. Now, so when coming to this family is nothing but my organization. Okay, this is nothing but my organization. Okay, so this is nothing but my organization here. Now, so whatever the big bowl that we have inside that which the food is ready, now this a big bowl is nothing but my object. Okay, so this is nothing but my object. So this is nothing but my object where exactly the actual records has been getting resides. Now from this bowl, nothing but from this object, we are collecting the records and we are placing inside the plate. So now whatever the plate that we are using to place that food, that means what? I don't want this entire food which is available inside my bowl. I would like to have only some piece of food so that I'm collecting that piece of food, I'm placing inside my bowl, inside my plate. Now this plate is called as temporary memory. This place is called as temporary memory. So now inside this plate, whatever the food that we have, okay, whatever the food that we have inside this plate, now that food is nothing but my records which I'm going to process. Okay, these are nothing but the records which I'm going to process. So now whenever I'm going to be dividing this food to the various small pieces, that each piece is called as a batch. Okay, whatever the pieces that I'm going to be taking from that plate, that each piece is called as a batch. In that piece, you will be having that food. That food is nothing but the records inside that batch. Those are nothing but the records inside that batch. So in this case, what happened here? Whatever the records are available inside my object, I'm collecting the records which I would like to process. I may be having some billions of records available inside my object, but I don't want to process all. Some limited records I would like to process. It may be 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs, 1 crore, 5 crores, whatever, depends upon your requirement. We can collect the records from this particular bowl, that means from that object, place inside the temporary memory. Now here in this case, we can raise a question, sir, why I'm placing these records inside the temporary memory? Why do we need to place the records inside the temporary memory? Why can't we place inside that collection? Then collections. How can we get these records here? Database that, what up to that? I want that method. No. Generally, if you want to get the records from that object, we are using normal SQL queries. As part of SQL queries, we are having static SQL query, which will return 50,000. Madam, don't refer the notes. Close the notes. Now, we can use dynamic SQL query. Dynamic SQL query we can use by using database.query method. That is also returning 50,000 only, but I want to process 50 million. How can we fetch? Get query locator, right? In this case, we need to collect the data by using the get query locator method. So that whenever we are using the bash programming, in order to fetch the data from the database, we need to use the database.get query locator method. Okay, get query locator method. So what this get query locator method will do? Get query locator method is going to be collecting the records from that object up to 50 million. But all these 50 millions of records we can't accommodate inside the collection. Because if I'm storing the records inside the collection will go into the view state and the collection will be occupying some heap memory. In that one, we can't store those many number of 50 millions of records. For that one, we are using the temporary memory. In the temporary memory, we can able to store some billions of records also, which is providing with that Salesforce. So that here we are not using any normal static SQL, we are not using any dynamic SQL. So we are going to be using a separate method called as database.getQueryLocator, which will be executing the specific SQL query, which will be collecting all the records up to 50 million, and those records it is going to be placing inside the temporary memory. Okay. So in this case, whatever the records we have collected, those records are going to placing inside the temporary memory here. Because I'm fetching some large records, I'm fetching some bulk records from that object, so those records are placing inside the temporary memory. Once the records are available inside the temporary memory, we can't consider all this record within a single transaction. We can't have that whole food at a time. Okay, so for that one, we're splitting those records to various small pieces. that each piece is called as a batch. In this case, whenever I'm going to be dividing the records of various small pieces called as batches, for each and every batch, Salesforce has given some size. So what is the minimum number of records per batch now? 200? No. Minimum batch size. Minimum batch size. Minimum. 1. And then, what is the maximum batch size? 2000. What is the default batch size? 200. Right. That already told you during the data loader concept. Because data loader internally using batch programming only, nothing different. Okay, this is also using so batch programming internally. So in this case, when coming to that batch programming, so it is collecting all the records from the database object. Those records are going to placing inside the temporary memory. Once the records has been placed inside the temporary memory, it will be slicing the records to various small pieces, okay, in terms of batches. That each batch will be having, okay, the minimum 1 record, maximum 2000 records, default 200 records. That we can decide. There is a possibility that we can decide how many records you would like to consider per batch. It may be 5 records, 10 records, 2 records, 100 records, 1000 records, maximum 2000 records we can indicate. If you did not given any batch size, by default, Salesforce is going to be taking the default batch size as 200. Okay, clear? Now this is the concept here. Now in this case, what happened? We are going to be collecting that records, okay, from the object. Those records you are placing inside the temporary memory. So what are the records you would like to process? Collect those records from that object and then place those records inside the temporary memory. Once the records have been getting placed inside the temporary memory, from there we can able to split the records to various small pieces called as batches. Okay, clear? Now, so now here in this case, okay, now here in this case. So once the records have been getting divided, that means once the food is ready inside my plate, once the food has been divided to the various small pieces, then how can we have it? In order to have that food, okay, we need that human body. So now that human body, in that one, we are going to be using 3 parts mainly upon having that food. One is your hand, second one is your mouth, third one is your brain. So 3 parts are working inside that. Okay, 3 parts are working upon having that food. Initially, your brain is instructing to that hand, so now please collect a piece of food, give it to the mouth. Now, based on the instruction of that brain, the hand will pick up a small piece from the plate. It will be giving to the mouth here. From there, the mouth is going to start eating that food. Once the food is done, that means eating is done of that particular piece. It will be giving the instruction, I'm done with that piece. Please give me the next piece here. Now the brain is instructing the hand again, please give the second piece of food to that mouth. That means what here? These are the 3 parts are working. Keep on continuously till all the pieces are over. Like the similar way here also, whenever we are going to be implementing that batch processing, by dividing the records to various small pieces, then we are going to processing each and every batch separately. For that one, we are going to be using a functionality. We are using an interface called as database.batchable interface. In order to implement the batch processing, that means in order to divide the records to various small pieces and to process each and every batch record, we are using an interface called as database.batchable interface. Database.batchable of a subject. So this is an interface. Okay. So in this case, in order to have that food, we need a human body here, which will be having all these 3 parts, which can able to collect the food from the plate. It can be able to have that food. Like the similar way, in order to implement that batch programming, whatever the features are required, all the features are available inside a ready-made interface called as the database.batchable interface. Database.batchable is a standard interface which has been given by Salesforce. Okay. Now, so when coming to that batchable interface is having internally 3 methods. Okay, it is having 3 methods are available internally. Now, the first one is start method. Second one, execute method. Third one, finish method. Okay, these are the 3 methods are available. Like as upon having that food in our human body, 3 parts are working. Like the similar way, inside the batchable interface also we are having 3 methods. Like we are having start method, execute method, finish method. Three methods are available. Now, in this case, what exactly the start method, what it will do? What exactly the execute method, what it will do? What exactly the finish method, what it will do? Okay, now let's see practically. So we'll go in detail of each and every method one by one. What exactly the operations are happening in each and every method, we'll see with the help of the batch programming execution life cycle. Okay, understood the concept here up to now? Now, whenever we are going to processing some bulk records, okay, whenever if you are processing some bulk records, then we can go with that batch programming. With the help of batch programming, we can able to perform the operations on some bulk records. Some millions of records also, we can process up to 50 million, not more than that. Okay, up to 50 million records we can process by using batch programming. Generally, batch programming is used to implement the long running operations. Long running operations means what? So these are the operations which involve some more number of records processing, which contain some transaction processing, which contain some complex transaction logics are available, which will take some more time. So at that time, we are going to implementing with the help of the batch programming, so that these are executing outside of my organization parallelly, so that there is no impact on my organization. So I can continue with my work in my organization as it is. It will be executing in the background process as it is here. So parallel processing we can able to implement with the help of batch programming. So that when coming to the batch programming, batch jobs are always executing outside of your organization, not within your organization. Batch jobs are always executing outside of your organization, not within our organization. If it is executing within my organization, till the completion of that batch processing, we can't perform any other operation. Your system will be going into the read-only state. You can't perform any other operation. So that I want to make it executable outside of my organization by placing inside a separate place that is called as queue, that is also called as Apex queue. Salesforce is maintaining its own queue called as Apex queue. By placing all these jobs inside that Apex queue, we can start executing them, which will be executing in the background process, and we can continue with our work as it is without any disturbance. So for that reason, we are using that batch programming, so that batch jobs are always executing outside of organization by placing inside that Salesforce queue that is called as Apex queue. Okay, that Salesforce queue is called as Apex queue. Now, in that Apex queue, all these batch jobs will be getting resides, and from there, depends upon the availability of the Salesforce resources, depends upon the Salesforce server availability, it will pick up each and every job, it will be start processing that. Now, whenever if you want to process that each and every job by dividing the records into various small pieces, because the job will be involving some lakhs of records processing. In this case, if I'm considering all these lakhs of records inside a single transaction, if any of the record has been failed because of that single record, the whole transaction will be getting rolled back. So we need to reprocess that same records again and again and again. In the second time also, there is no guarantee that the entire batch will be getting processed successfully. So that I don't want to consider all the records within a single transaction. I want to split them to the various small pieces called as batches. So whenever if you are processing the records by dividing them to the various small pieces, then it is called as batch programming or batch processing. So we can able to divide the record to the various small pieces called as batches, and each batch we will consider, we can process it over here. Okay, so in this case, whenever if you want to implement this kind of batch processing, we have to use a ready-made interface called as database.batchable interface. Database.batchable is a standard interface which has been given by Salesforce, which will be having all the functionalities to divide the records to the various small batches and process each and every batch records one by one. So that as part of this batchable interface, it is providing three methods to you by default. One is start method, second one is execute method, third one is finish method. Okay, then what exactly the start method, what exactly the execute method, what exactly the finish method, what it will do? Now let's see practically in this case. Okay, once we are done with this process, then we'll see what kind of questions they will raise in the entry point of view, and then we'll see the practical implementation part. Okay, clear? Understood the concept as of now? No. So now let's see the batch programming execution life cycle. Now, so let's come to that execution life cycle of that batch programming. So in order to implement the batch programming, we are using an interface. Okay, we are using a interface that is called as database.batchable. Database.batchable is a standard interface which has been given by Salesforce by default. Okay, database.batchable is a standard interface. It's a ready-made interface which has been given by Salesforce by default in order to split the records to the various small batches, and we can process each and every batch records one by one. Okay, now, so in this case, how can we implement this batch processing now? Now let me explain practically. For example, assume that I'm having my database.com. In my database.com, I'm having so many objects which has been given by Salesforce, like as all the standard objects, custom objects, everything will be getting resides inside the database.com. Database.com is a customized database of Salesforce where exactly all the Salesforce objects will get resides. It may be standard, including custom objects also. All the records are getting resides inside my object, inside my database. For example, I am having an object with the name account. In my account, for example, I'm having some 20 million records are there. Okay, I'm having some 20 million records. That means how many records are available? 2 crore records are available. Okay, 20 million means 2 crore records are available. So now in this case, these are my customer records. That means account records, customer records. Now in each and every customer record, I'm having a field, a small field is available. Okay, a small field is available. Contact number or some toll-free number. My organization toll-free number we have mentioned, like as some +1 800 8899. These are toll-free number that we have mentioned inside this. Okay, we have mentioned the toll-free number. Recently, we have changed this toll-free number. Okay, recently we have changed this toll-free number to a new number. Okay, we have changed the toll-free number here. Now then what I need to do, I need to go to each and every customer record. In that customer record, there is a field called as toll-free number field, and the contact number field, and the customer care number field. In that one, there are already having the toll-free number, contact number is there. Recently, we have changed the toll-free number. So now I want to update that field value with this new value, whatever we have prepared. For how many records I need to do this update operation? For 20 million records. Okay. That means 2 crore records are there inside my account object. In every record, we are having this toll-free number field is there. In every field, I want to update this new value. That means 2 crore records I need to update. If I'm going with that normal SO cable query, it will be returning only 50,000 records to me. If I'm updating 50,000, 50,000, 50,000 like that, it will take more time. For that reason, I want to execute this functionality with the help of batch programming. So I would like to use that batch programming. Through that batch programming, I would like to update all these 2 crore records in one shot. Then how can we update all these 2 crore records? Now let's see practically in this case. So whenever we are going to be implementing the batch programming, we have to use an interface called as a database.batchable interface. We have to use an interface called as database.batchable. Database.batchable is a ready-made interface which contains all the functionalities to implement the batch programming. That means to collect the records from the database and to divide them to the various small pieces in the form of batches, to process each and every batch record. Whatever the features are required, all these functionalities are available inbuilt inside the database.batchable interface. So I'm using the database.batchable interface. As part of this database.batchable interface, I have 3 methods are available. First one is start method, second one is execute method, third one is finish method. Okay, 3 methods are available here. Now in this case, now first of all, which method will execute? Start method will be getting executed. As a step 1, start method will be getting executed. What this start method will do? Now let's see practically here. Start method is going to be collecting the records. Okay, start method is going to be collecting the records here. So whatever the records are available inside my object, From these records, I would like to process some of the records here. So what records you would like to process, you can able to collect those records by using that SQL query. Okay, with the help of that SQL query, I would like to collect those records which you would like to process. For example, I want to update all these 20 million records. I would like to update all these 20 million records. Once all these 20 million records have been getting collected, that means now in this case, now tell me how can we collect this 2 million records here? So 20 million records. Can I use normal SQL query? No. Normal SQL query will be returning how many records? 50,000 records only, not more than that. But how many records I would like to fetch? 20 million records. So that here, instead of executing this SQL query, normally I want to execute this SQL query with the help of a method called as database.getQueryLocator. Okay, database.getQueryLocator. Then what this database.getQueryLocator method will do? Database.getQueryLocator method is going to be executing that specific SQL query, which will be having the capability to fetch up to maximum of 50 million records. Okay, database.getQueryLocator is having the capability to fetch a maximum of 50 million records. But those records, it is not returning in the form of a collection, because collection is not having the capability to store those many number of records. So that database.getQueryLocator is going to be executing the query. It will fetch the records up to 50 million. All those records will be placing inside the temporary memory. Okay, all these records it is going to placing inside my temporary memory here. Temporary memory will be having the capability to store some billions of records also. There is a huge space in that one. We can able to place my records for some time, not permanently, for some time till the processing. I would like to place these records inside my temporary memory. So that I would like to place all these records inside my temporary memory here. So that here, when coming to the database.getQueryLocator, now it is going to be collecting the records from the object based on the SQL query. Those records are going to be placing inside the temporary memory, and then what are the starting memory address is available for this temporary memory, the starting memory address will be getting simply written over. Its job is over. It can't dividing the records. It will not be involving in the other processing. No, the getQueryLocator method functionality is what? getQueryLocator method is going to purely executing the specific SQL query. It will collect the records from that object up to 50 million. Those records are placing inside the temporary memory. Once the records has been placed inside the temporary memory, in that entire temporary memory, there is a huge space is there. In that space, at which location this records has been placed, it will collect the starting memory address of that location. Simply it will be returning that address here. That's it. Its job is over. Now in this case, once that address has been getting written, who will collect that record? For that one, this memory address will be returning to a class called as database.queryLocator class. Observe the difference. QueryLocator is a class, getQueryLocator is a method. Okay, don't get confused. Both will be looking like a same. Okay, QueryLocator is a class, getQueryLocator is a method. Okay, getQueryLocator is going to be executing that specific SQL query. It will collect all the records, placing those records inside the temporary memory. Once the records have been placed inside the temporary memory, whatever the starting memory address is available for my records, that starting memory address will be returning by this getQueryLocator method to that a class called as QueryLocator class. We have a class called as database.queryLocator class, which will be having the capability to go to the respective location. Based on that location, it will be split those records to the various small pieces. Now here in this case here, observe this one. Now, so when coming to that QueryLocator class, QueryLocator class is going to be collecting that starting memory address of my records. Based on that starting memory address, it will locate that starting memory address here. Okay, based on that starting memory address, it will go to the respective location of that address, and from there it will identify how many records are available in this particular memory address. Once the records are available, then it is going to be dividing the records to various small pieces based on the batch size which you have indicated. Depends upon the batch size which you have indicated, those records will be dividing to the various small pieces. Now, in this case, upon using that batch size, we can able to use that minimum batch size as 1 and then maximum batch size as 2000. The default batch size is what? 200. If you did not specify any batch size, by default, Salesforce is considering the default batch size as 200 PU over here. Okay, the default batch size is 200. If you want, you can specify, but the minimum batch size should be 1, maximum should be 2000, not more than that. It may be 5, it may be 10, it may be 20, 50, 100, 1000, 1500, up to maximum of 2000 we can specify, not more than that. So in this case, we are going to passing that starting memory address to that query locator class. Now this query locator class will be collecting that memory address. Based on the memory address, it will go to that location, and then it will be identifying how many records are available inside my temporary memory. Those records are going to be divided into the various small pieces called as batches. That each batch will be having some specific number of records. Suppose if I'm giving that batch size as some 10, now inside my batch 1 you will be having 1 to 10 records. In the batch 2 you will be having 11 to 20 records. In the batch 3 you will be having 21 to 30. Like that it is dividing the records to that various batches. Okay, like as your pagination concept only. Okay, like as your pagination concept which we have discussed as part of standard set controller class. Now here also, what are the records are available inside my temporary memory, those records are going to be divided into that various small pieces called as batches, depends upon the batch size which you have indicated, right? Now the user can specify that how many records they would like to consider per batch. Okay, how many records you would like to consider per batch, we have to indicate that the batch size over here. Based on the batch size, it is dividing all the records to various small pieces called as batches. This is the concept of stack method. Okay, this is the internal processing of that batch method. So only stack method inside that. Okay, clear up to this one? Initially, start method will be getting executed. Start method is going to be executing the SOQL query, whatever we have specified. Based on that SOQL query, it is collecting the data up to 50 million. How? With the help of a method called as getQueryLocator method. It is not executing the query like a static SOQL. It is not executing the query like as a dynamic SOQL. It is executing with the help of a method called as getQueryLocator method. Now the getQueryLocator method will execute that specific SOQL query. It will be having the capability to fetch up to 50 million records. All those records are placing inside the temporary memory. The starting memory address of the temporary memory will be returning to that the QueryLocator class. Now the database that getQueryLocator class will be collecting that starting memory address. Based on that memory address, it will go to that respective location. Okay, it will go to that respective location, and from there it will be start dividing that records to various small pieces called as batches. That each batch will be having some specific number of records, where the batch will be having minimum 1 record, maximum 2000 records. If the user did not specify any batch size, then Salesforce will consider the default batch size as 200. Okay, this is the internal functionality of stack method. Okay, yeah. RAM inside that Salesforce, inside the Salesforce server, not in our local organization. Yes, inside the Salesforce server. Okay, where exactly they are maintaining the queue, in that server they are going to be having some temporary memory. Okay, in that temporary memory it is allocating some memory space here. Once your batch processing has been done, automatically this temporary memory will be getting released. Okay, these records will be getting erased from that one. Okay, I will come to that point, madam, here. Okay, let me explain that remaining process, then we'll see that failed record, failed batches processing. Clear up to this one? Now this is the concept of start method. Okay, now start method is going to be collecting those records. It will be splitting them to the various small pieces called as batches. Now, so once the batch records are available here. Okay, once the batch records are available, so how it is going to be processing each and every batch records. Okay, once the batch records are available, how it is processing each and every batch record. Now let's see practically. Now the start method will be collecting the first batch records like as a batch 1. These are the various batches are available inside my batch processing. Okay, these are the various batches are available inside my batch processing. So now batch 1 some records, batch 2, batch 3, batch 4, batch 5, batch 6. Assume that 6 batches are there. Okay, inside my batch processing I'm having 6 batches are available. Now what it will do is, now the start method will be collecting the first batch, that is batch 1. It will collect that first batch. Now the first batch method will be passing to that execute. Okay, there is a method called as execute method. Now, start method is going to be collecting the first batch record. That means batch 1. For example, this is some 1 to 10 records are available. Okay, 1 to 10 records. Like for example, let me place that records inside this. For example, inside my batch, I'm having some records. Inside my batch 1, I'm having some 1 to 100. In my batch 2, 10, 1 to 200. In my batch 3, 2012 300. Here we are having 3012 400. Here I'm having 4012 500. Here I'm having 5012 600. Okay, totally 600 records are available inside my object. I'm collecting all the records. I'm dividing them to the various small pieces called as batches. Now, so now once the records has been getting collected, we are dividing them to the various batches. Now, once the batches are ready, now the start method is going to be collecting the first batch records. Start method will collect the first batch record, that is some batch 1. Okay, batch 1. It will collect the first batch records. This first batch records, it is passing to that execute method. Okay, it will collect the first batch record. This is the first batch that we have inside my batch processing. Totally 6 batches are available. From those 6 batches, so it is collecting the first batch record. That means 1 to 100. Okay, it will be collecting that first record. That means 1 to 100 records. It will collect this 1 to 100 records. It is passing to that execute method. Now, when coming to the execute method, it is collecting all these 100 records. Now, how can we pass 100 records to that method generally? In the form of what? Collection, right? In the form of collection. So in this case, execute method is going to be collecting this 100 record. That means batch records in the form of a collection. Okay. Now, so once the records has been getting collected, execute method will be having the actual business logic. Okay, inside this execute method, we are having this actual business logic. Now, once this first batch record, that means 100 records has been getting collected. So now it is going to be performing the operations on this particular records. So whatever the first batch records are available, first 100 records are available. On this 100 records, it is going to be performing those operations. Okay, it is performing those operations. Once the operations has been done, it is going to be committing these changes back to the database. Okay, it will be committing these changes back to the database here. It will go to my database. It will be committing these changes back to the database. Okay, now, for example, here, come to a scenario. Let me explain that. Now, so now let me explain this one. So now we are having the various batches are available. You can batch 1 to batch 6 batches are available. Let me explain each and every batch one by one. So totally I'm having 6 batches are available inside the batch group. Now initially, start method will be collecting the first batch record, that means 1 to 100. It will collect the first batch records and those records will be passing to that execute. Now the execute method will be receiving the first batch record, that means first 100 records in the form of a collection. So now it is collecting those 100 records. Once the records are available inside my execute method, then on those 100 records it is performing the operation. Whatever the operation that you want, we can implement. That it can be insertion, updation, deletion, whatever, anything, whatever the operation you want to do, we can write the business logic inside this execute method. Now, start method will be having only the business logic to collect the records and to place them inside the temporary memory and to split them to the various small pieces. That's it. Here we don't have any actual business logic. Actual business logic will be available inside your execute method. Now, when coming to the start method, it will collect the first batch records. Those records are going to be passing to the execute method. Now, execute method will be collecting the first batch record. That means the first 100 records. It will collect that first 100 records. Once the first 100 records are been getting collected, we are performing the operations on those first 100 records. Now, for example, all the 100 records are being processed successfully. Okay, all the 100 records are being processed successfully. Once all the records are been getting processed successfully, then execute method is going to be committing the changes back to the database. Okay, it will commit the changes back to the database. Whatever the batch 1 records are available, that means first the 100 records, these are going to be committing back to the database. So once this committed has been done, once this record processing has been done, then it is going to be informing the start method that I'm done with the first batch processing. Please give me the second batch records. Okay, it is informing the start method that I'm done with the first batch records, and then please give me the second batch record to me so that I will get processing that, because I'm idle right now over here. Now in this case, when coming to the execute method, it is giving the indication to the start method that I'm done with the first batch record, please give me the second batch. Then how these two methods are communicating with each other over here? In order to make these two methods to be communicate with each other, Salesforce is providing a ready-made class called as database dot batchable context. Database dot batchable context. Salesforce is providing a ready-made class called as database dot batchable context. Database dot batchable context is a ready-made class which will establish a communication channel where all these three methods can communicate with each other. In order to make these three methods communicate with each other, it is establishing a communication channel with the help of a method called class called as database dot batchable context. Like for example, come to a general scenario. Whenever I'm having the food, okay, three parts of our body will be working. Now these three parts will be communicating with each other or not? Yes. Who is sending the instruction? My brain. My brain is sending the instructions over here. It is establishing a communication channel. Now the brain is instructing your hand, please take a small piece of food, give it to the mouth. Based on instruction, it will work. And then here, once that mouth is collecting that food, it will start eating that process. Once it is done, it is giving the indication, I'm done with that piece of food, give me the next piece here. Like the similar way, these parts are communicating with each other. Like the similar way, in order to make these three methods to communicate with each other, Salesforce is providing a ready-made class called as database dot batchable context. Now, database dot batchable context is a ready-made class which establishes a communication channel between all the three methods so that these three methods can communicate with each other. Why? Because suppose, for example, start method has given the first batch record. Now it is executing that, it is performing the operation. In this meantime, if the start method is giving a second batch record, then where the batch will go? It will be getting discarded because execute method can't take up because it is busy with the first batch records only. So we can't take up some more batch records. So let me complete the batch one, then only we can take the second batch. Till that time, it has to get paid. Then how it has to get paid? It has to get the indication over here. From whom? From the execute method. When once the operation has been done, it will be sending an indication that I'm done with the first batch processing. Please give me the next batch. So that in order to make these two methods and the three methods communicate with each other, it is providing a communication channel with the help of a class called as database dot batchable context. Okay, database dot batchable context is a ready-made class which provides a communication mechanism between all the three methods of your batchable interface. Start method, execute method, finish method, all these three methods will be communicating with each other with the help of a communication channel established by a class called as database dot batchable context. Okay, now, so now here once the first batch record has been done, it will be committing the changes back to the database. Observe this slide. It will be committing the changes back to the database. Now the execute method is passing the indicator to the start method. Please give me the second batch records. Now the start method will be passing the second batch record. That means second batch record means what? 1 0 1 2 2. Now it is passing the second batch records. Now second batch also processed successfully. It is committing the changes back to the database. So second batch is also processed successfully. Now the batch 2. Batch 2 also has been committed. Committed to that database. Now this execute method is indicating the start method. Please give me the next batch. Now start method has given that batch 2. In this batch 3, we are having the records from 2012 3. Okay, 2012 3. Now, upon processing this records, 278 record has been paid. 278 record has been paid. What will happen in this case? Roll back. Roll back in the sense what? What will roll back?
That's me.
It will roll back only the failed record. It will roll back only the batch It will roll back all the batches in the batch program. In this case, whenever we are going to be using the batch programming, inside a batch, upon processing the batch record, if any of the record has been failed, this entire batch will be getting cancelled. Okay, entire batch will be getting cancelled. That means that whatever the third batch is available, batch 3 has been failed. It will be committing. Okay, this batch has been, these two batches are failed. Now, what about the remaining batches? Will be continuing with the remaining batches or will be cancelling this operation from the next? Continue. That means what here? Now, once the batch 3 has been failed, then it will go to that fourth batch. That means what is this mechanism? Not asynchronous. If one of the record has been failed, we are not cancelling the whole transaction, just we are ignoring that and we are continuing with the rest of the records. Partial processing mechanism. Between what we are having the partial processing mechanism, between the records within the batch and between the batches we are having the partial processing here. Between the batches or between the records within the batch. Between the batches are what? Now in this case what happened? Whenever I am going to be having the 6 batches are available, consider because we have 6 records. Now first record is processed, second record is processed, third record is failed. It will be simply ignoring that. It will continue with the fourth record, fifth record, sixth record like that. That means here, if any of the batch record has been getting failed, only that batch will be getting affected. Simply it will be ignoring that batch and it is going to be continuing with the rest of the batches as it is. That means what? Salesforce is maintaining the partial processing between the batches inside your batch process. Okay, is the internal concept. Files are very, very important. You should be able to understand the concept internally. Okay, internal concepts are very, very important. So now whenever I'm going to be utilizing the batch programming, so between the batches, Salesforce is allowing the partial processing mechanism. That means upon processing the batch record, if any of the batch records has been failed, then it won't cancel the whole transaction. Simply it will be ignoring the batch, it will continue with the rest of the batches as it is. So that we are having the partial processing mechanism between the batches. Now, sometimes now tell me, whenever I'm going to be processing this batch record, because of 278 record, so now this whole batch has been getting failed. I don't want to cancel the whole batch, I want to cancel only this particular record. How can you do this one? Then, what we can do? I don't want to cancel all the records. I want to cancel only that particular record which has been failed. How to achieve this one? Partial processing. How? Tell me. Database that? Error. No, not error. What happened, madam? Then, what we can do in this case? Upon inserting the records, okay, by using a collection, if any of the record has been failed, okay, if any of the record has been failed, I don't want to cancel the whole transaction, just I want to skip that record, I want to continue with the records. How can we achieve this one? I'm inserting the record, I'm inserting the records. Database that? Insert. That means those are called as what? Database class methods. Don't use the normal DML statement because internally it is using the normal DML statement. Because of that, if one record has been failed, the whole batch will be getting cancelled. Whenever if you want to fail only that particular single record, okay, upon processing that inside the batch, if there is any record has been failed, I don't want to cancel the whole batch. I want to make only this record has to get affected. Remaining records I would like to continue as it is in the batch. So in this case, if you want to maintain the batch processing, that means partial processing within the batch, then we have to use database class. You know how to use database class methods already, we are aware of it. Okay, you know that concept. How to use database start insert, database start update, all these things you are aware of it. How to track that one by using database start save result class, database start update result class, and the delete result class you are aware of. Same concept you are using there also, nothing different. Okay. So now in this case, whenever I'm going to be using the batch processing, if any of the batch record has been failed, the whole batch will be getting cancelling by Salesforce. Now, once the batch has been getting cancelled, it will be simply ignoring that batch. It will continue with the rest of the batches as it is. Okay. Now, in this case, upon implementing the batch processing, if you don't want to cancel the complete batch, if you want to cancel only that particular single record which has been affected, which has been failed, at that time we have to use the database class methods. By using database class methods, we can able to make only that particular record has to be get failed. That means simply ignore that record from the processing, continue with the remaining records within that batch itself. So that here, by default, between the batch Salesforce is maintaining the parcel processing. Within the batch, if you want to maintain the parcel processing, we have to use database class. Okay, clear? Now, in this case, now the start method is going to passing the third batch records. Third batch records. Third batch has been getting failed over. Next, it will be passing the fourth batch, the batch. Batch 4 has been processed successfully. And then it is indeed passing that batch 5. Batch also has been processed successfully. And the last batch, batch 6, that is also has been processed successfully. Now tell me within my batch processing, batch programming, how many batches are available totally here? 6 batches. From the 6 batches, how many batches are successful? How many batches are failed? 5 are successful, 1 batch has been failed. Then how do we know? How many batches are successful? How many batches are failed? No, madam. No. These success is for only for save result class. These are different concept here. Now in this case, if you want to know inside the batch processing, how many batches are available? How many batches have been processed by Salesforce? How many batches are successfully processed? How many batches are failed? If you want to know this information, then we have to use an object called as async apex Java. Async apex Java is a standard object which is maintaining the same. Okay. Async apex job is a standard object which is maintaining the Salesforce in which all your batch jobs information will be getting resides. Okay, what are the batch jobs that are executed? For every batch job, what are the details are available? That means what is the idea of the batch job? What is the status of that batch job? How many batches are available inside that? How many batches have been processed by Salesforce server? How many batches have been failed? Who has initiated that batch job? The whole information we can track with the help of an object called as async apex job object. All your batch jobs information, all your batch jobs the status information will be getting resides inside an object called as async apex job object. It's a standard object which is maintaining by Salesforce by default to track all the batch jobs information inside this. Okay, clear? Through programming, we can able to track. Through programming, we can track how many batches are available inside my batch processing and how many batches are successfully processed, how many batches have been failed. The whole information we can able to track with the help of the async apex job object inside. Okay, clear? This is a standard object maintaining by Salesforce inside. Understood the concept here? Now, after that. Now, the execute method is going to be collecting the batch records one by one, and then once all the batches have been getting processed, and finally, now it is indicating the finish method. I'm done with executing all the batches here. Then please go ahead to execute the post execution batch. Like for example, once you have had that whole food inside the plate, then finally brain is instructing to you, so please go ahead, please go to the hand wash and make a hand wash. Like the similar way, once the operations has been done, once all the batches has been getting processed, then what I want to do? Do you want to do any additional operations, like as if you want to send any email notifications? If you want to invoke some any other batch jobs, like as the chaining process, then we can do those operations. So that once all the batches processing has been done, finally we'll be executing the finish method, which is going to be executing the post execution logic. Post execution logic means what? Sending the email notifications also, or it may be invoking some another batch jobs also, nothing but subsequent batch jobs also. We can perform those operations. For that reason, we are using that finish. These are the three methods are available as part of your batchable interface. Start method, execute method, and the finish method. Start method is going to simply collecting the data from the object, placing inside the temporary memory. The temporary memory starting address is passing to the query locator class. Now it is going to be entering into the temporary location based on the address to start dividing the record to various small pieces called as batches based on the batch size which you have indicated. we can indicate that how many records will be get considered per batch. But for records have been divided into the various small batches. Now, start method is like looking for the availability of execute method. If the execute method is available, now it is passing the first batch record. First batch record will pass into the execute method. It will receive the first batch records in the farmer's collection. It is performing the operations on all the records available inside the batch. Once the operation has been done, it will commit the changes back to the database. Once the changes have been committed back to the database, then we define the start method and done with the first batch processing. Please give me the second batch. Now, start method is going to be getting the second batch records. It is passing the second batch records. Now we are processing the second batch records. Then changes will be coming back to the database. It will be defined the start method and done with the second batch. Please give the third batch. So this process will keep on continuing like as a cyclic mechanism till all the batches are being done. Once all the batches have been processed successfully, finally it will be defined the finish method. We are done with processing all the batches available inside the batch programming. Please execute that post execution batch. So these are is the process of batch programming execution life cycle. Okay, clear?
If one of the batch is not able to take the message, one of the batch.
Now, in this case, upon executing the batches, if there is any failures are available, you will be getting the email notification. Generally, when you go to the normal Apex programming, we can able to see the error message inside the debug log file. Here we don't have the concept of debug log file. You will be getting the email notification. So now, whenever we are executing the batch job, you will be having for organization. Nothing but you will be having currently logged in user. That user's email ID will be receiving one email notification along with the error messages.
Do not default. Send default email.
Default email in the sense.
You want to again you want to follow email templates, email messages.
No. It will be preparing the email content that will be sending to your email ID. The currently logged in user. That means the person who has initiated the batch job, to that person it will be sending a notification. Okay. Clear? Understood the concept of this batch processing?
So instead of creating batches, we can directly go with partial mechanism between records.
How? If it is a millions of records of the user.
It's using in the batch set. Same mechanism can be included on.
Where if you are executing within your organization, suppose if you are processing some 20 lakhs records, it will take more time. Till that time, you can't do any operations inside your organization. Your user interfaces will be in the locking state. You can't perform any other operation. There's no problem. That means without impacting on my user interface, I want to execute. Any questions in this one as of now? Understood the flow?
Executing the process, what exactly it will do? It's transferring the record, it's executing the record for.
It will perform the operation. That means whatever the operations you are doing that means updating that, whatever the operations you are doing, that operations will be available inside that execution.
Okay, it will store it into the server.
No questions? No questions on this one? Clear? Now I have some questions now. So now let's see the entry point of view questions in this batch program. First thing, it's a common question in every interview. How many methods are available inside your batchable data? 3 methods. What are those 3 methods? Okay, now 3 methods are available. Now tell me the second question. How many times start method will execute? How many times execute method will execute? How many times finish method will execute? Start method will execute how many times? Execute method. It depends upon the number of batches that we have. Those many number of times this execute method will execute. Finish method. A finish method will be executing only once. Okay. Now start method will be only once. Execute method will be depends upon the number of batches, and then finish method will be executing only once. What is the flow of execution? Start and then execute and then finally finish. This is the flow. Okay. This is the flow of execution. We'll be having the start method will be executing first, and then execute method will be executing next, and then finish method will be executing next. Okay. Now, clear up to this one? Now, next one here. This. Whenever I'm going to be dividing the records to various batches, then what is the batch size that you can indicate? What is the batch size? What is the default batch size? What is the minimum batch size? Minimum batch size is maximum 2000. Default, check it is the batch size. Now, for example, come here scenario. Let me explain that. Assume that I'm having 10 lakh. Okay, I'm having 10 lakhs. I'm having 10 lakhs. So these are the records are there which I would like to process, which I would like to update. Now I'm given that batch size as. Now tell me how many batches are available in this case. You will be having that batches. How many batches are available? 10,000. 10,000 batches are available. Now in this case, first of all, it will collect the first batch, passing to the execute method. I'm using one DML operation. That means one update. It is passing the second batch record. Now one more update. How many update statements we have used now? It is passing the third batch. One more update statement. How many? It is passing the 150 batch. 150 update. It is passing the 151. What will happen? Show error. Why? Then if it is having 150 DML statement, then what is the use of this batch concept? For example, let me explain a general scenario. Assume that I'm using a mobile network, Geo network. I'm using a plan like from 400 and 500, where they have given the offer to me. Every day they are giving 1.5 GB of mobile data, 100 SMS per day, unlimited calls. Today I have used that 1 GB of mobile data because I have watched so many videos today. 1 GB of data I have used. Tomorrow morning, what will happen? 1.5 fresh data will be added. For example, that means what? Whenever the date has been getting changed, then fresh limit will be available to you. That means again 1.5 GB data, 100 SMS, and then you will be having unlimited calls. For example, tomorrow I'm using 1.5 GB data completely. When the date has been changed, then again fresh limit. Nothing but that will be what happened, refreshing automatically. Same concept is available here also. In this case, what will happen? Whenever the first batch record has been processed, now the first batch record passing to the execute method. Execute method is going to be internally maintaining a transaction. Internally maintaining a transaction. For example, first batch has been supplied, batch 1. So which is having the record from 1 to 100 records. Okay, it will maintain the transaction. It will maintain the transaction. For example, transaction 1. Now, in this case, in this transaction, what limits are available? How many DML statement limits are available? How many SQL queries are available? And then how many DML rows we can process? How many query records we can fetch? You will be getting the query records 50%. And how many SQL queries we can specify? 20. How many SQL rows we can fetch? And then how many email invocations per day? Email invocations Continuous. Okay. You will be having the corner limit. This list of corner limits are available at the end of your debug lifetime. Okay. You can see that all this list of corner limits will be available at the end of your debug lifetime. Now it is maintaining the transaction part. Now, as soon as whenever the execute method is going to be collecting the first batch record, only the first batch, that means 1 to 100 record. First 100 record it has collected. Now, in this case, it is maintaining a batch transaction over separately. It will maintain a transaction, that is transaction 1. In this transaction, we are getting these limitations over. Now, in this one, whatever the records are available, each and every record are processing. Record 1, record 2, record 3, record 4. So now here I am going to be using almost some 10 DML statements. I am using some 10 DML statements. How many DML statements you have used now? 10 out of 150. Okay. By end of this batch processing, I am done with that and I have utilized 10 DML statements. Like as one insert statement, 2 update statements, 3 delete statements, like that we have used up to 10 DML statements. By end of this transaction, what we have used 10 out of 150. That means 10 DML statements we have used out of 150 which have been given by Salesforce. Now, once this records operations has been done, so once the records operation has been done, it is committing the changes back to the data. It will commit these changes back to that. Once the changes have been committed back to the database, then it is going to inform the start method that I am done with the first record. Before informing the start method, whatever the kernel limits are available, these kernel limits will be getting reset to 0 again. Okay, that means for every batch, the fresh limits are available. For every batch, a fresh limit of kernel limits will be available to you. For every batch, you will be getting 150 DML statements, 10,000 DML rows, 100 SOQLs, 50,000 SOQL query records, 20 SOSL, 10 email notifications, everything will be available. Now, in this case, for the batch 1, we are getting the fresh limitations will be available. Now, for the first batch, we have used 10 DML statements. Whenever it is moving to the second batch, in this case, what will happen? It will be resetting the total limits to the reset value, nothing but 0 values again. So, in this case, what happened for the second batch? Whenever it is passing the second batch, now it is going to be erasing this transaction 1, and it is going to be implementing that one more transaction over here, that is transaction 2. Okay, here you will be having 1012 200 records. That means what? Each and every batch will be executing in discrete transaction. Discrete transaction means what? Separate transaction. In each transaction, a separate limits of kernel limits will be available to you. Fresh limits are available to you. Okay? Whenever if one batch records have been getting processed, before moving to the second batch, whatever the kernel limits are available, kernel limits will be getting bypassed. Bypassing in a sense, resetting the values to 0 always. Okay? It will be resetting the values to 0. So that for every batch, you will be getting the fresh limit of kernel limits are available. So in this case, when coming the batch programming, even though you are having lakhs of batches are also available, there is no chance of crossing the kernel limits. Okay? There is no chance of crossing the kernel limits. Within a single batch, if you are using more than 150 DML statement, it will be cross the kernel limit. But we can't use that more than 150 DML statements per transaction. Because always we are using bulkification process. With the help of bulkification process, we are processing bulk records in one shot by using the DML statements with the help of collections. Okay? Clear? Understood the concept here? Now, this is a common question in every interview because Salesforce has given that only 150 DML statements. So now if I am having more than 150 batches are available, how it will be passing? In this case, each and every batch will be executing inside a discrete transaction, separated transaction, so that in each transaction, fresh limits will be available to you. For that one, for the batch 1, separate limitation, nothing but 150 DML, and then 100 SOQLs, 20 SOSL, 10 email invocations will be available. Like for the batch 2 also, separate limits will be available. Fresh limits are available for each and every batch, so that there is no chance of crossing the kernel limits when coming to your batch processing, so that we can process millions of records also. Okay, understood the concept here? Now, because it has part of the transaction functionality, the failure of one transaction should not be impacting on the another transaction in the system. Okay, failure of one transaction should not be impacting on the another transaction inside your application or system. That is the functionality of the transaction. That's what they're calling the asset properties, isolation. That means every transaction is separated, isolated, separated or available, so that if one transaction has been failure, then the results will be available up to the transaction only. It will not be impacting on the other transactions in the system because of that isolation property as part of database. So now in this case, when coming to the batch programming, okay, when coming to the batch programming, for each and every batch, the Salesforce is making a discrete transaction, that is separated transaction. Because of that, for each and every batch, you will be getting the fresh limitations as well. Fresh limits of boundary limits are available, so that there is no chance of crossing the boundary limits inside our Salesforce. Okay, clear? Understood the concept now? So now we in this case, as part of this batch program. Okay. Now here as part of this batch programming, you will be having some batches are available. Whatever the records you have collected from the database, I am going to be dividing all the records to various batches are available. So this is batch 1, batch 2, batch 3, batch 4, batch 5, batch 6. Like that, how many batches we can execute per day? In a single day, in 24 hours time frame, we can execute maximum of 2,50,000 batches, not more than that. Salesforce has given that limitation to you in a single day. That means in 24 hours of time frame, we can execute maximum of 2,50,000 batches. Each batch can have maximum of 2,000 records. Each batch can have maximum of 2,000 records. Minimum 1, maximum 2,000 records. You can place per batch. Like that, we can able to process maximum of 2,50,000 batches per day in single transaction, in a single day. Okay? Clear? Understood the concept of batch processing internally here? What will happen, everything? Still any questions? In the entry point of view, the people may be asking any question, any manner, you should be able to answer.
So it will having any number of records. Any number of records.
Batch will be having maximum 2,000. Not more.
So your batch is like a separate class.
No, it's like a separate transaction. That's what I told you. Each batch will be executing under a different transaction, separate transaction, distinct transaction. Okay. So because of one batch failure will not be impacting another batch. That's what here. If one batch has been failed, it will be ignoring that batch, continue with the remaining batches. Applicable here.
What is the return type of that?
Database sir? No, there is no return type. There is no return type. Because it's an interface which will be having some ready-made methods. Suppose if it is a class will be having some methods. There, inside that method, you will be having some business logic is available inside that. But when coming to the interface methods are purely abstract. That means what nothing will be available. We have to write the implementation part. That's what is called as non-concrete methods. Class methods are always concrete methods. Concrete method means what? Which will be having the implementation part. Body of the function is available, which is having some business logic inside that. But when you go to the interface, all the methods are non-concrete. Non-concrete means what? Just it will be having the signature of the method, but there is no method body, there is no business logic inside that. That business logic we have to provide inside our class. Okay?
In the interface is the ready-made function.
Ready-made functions. These are the ready-made functions given by Salesforce.
We have to implement the execution.
Right. We have to provide the implementation for all the three methods. Start method, execute, finish. Okay, all the three.
The account tables have the 50 million records, 80, and the database of query locator is
50 million only, not more than.
Then what about filling?
Then we have to process second time. But at that time, we have to make an indicator here. What records have been processed, what records are not processed. Just you have to maintain a checkbox over there, indicator here. Based on the indicator, we can able to apply that. Okay. Any more questions still?
But 20 million records and all that size of 100, so it takes a long time.
No problem. See, it won't take long time. Number of batches are more. Processing will be very faster by sales.
5 minutes, 10 minutes.
No, within fraction of seconds. For the 20 million records, if it is taking like some 5 minutes, 10 minutes, Now so many people are pushing so many batches in the queue. Then at that time they have to wait more time, right? No, they can't wait. See, for example, come to a general scenario. Assume that we have ICICI Bank. For this ICICI Bank, so many customers are available. Not only the individual customers, corporate customers are also. Like for example, we are having TCS. TCS is also one of the customer of ICICI Bank, where TCS employees are getting the salary through ICICI Bank. So now where they're having 2 lakhs employees in the TCS, for example. All the 2 lakhs employees are getting the salary through ICICI Bank. Assume that IBM, those are also using the ICICI Bank accounts. They are also having 2 lakhs. Assume that Infosys, they're having 2 lakhs employees. They're also getting the salary through ICICI Bank. We are having Cognizant, they're having some 1 lakh people. Like there's so many companies are available who are utilizing this ICICI Bank services. By end of the day, that means by end of that month, last working day, they're crediting the salary into their employees' accounts. Now, in this case, what these people will do, on the 25th of that month itself, the HR people are going to be collecting all the employee details from the HR portal, their attendance information also. Based on the attendance and based on the number of leaves, they are going to doing the salary calculations on 25th itself. Salary processing will be last working day of the month, but the calculations are done on the 25th of that month itself. So the 25th to 25th will be the salary calculation. So from the last to 25th to this 25th, how many leaves are available? How many leave balances are available to you? How many leaves you have utilized? How many additional leaves you have taken? Based on that, they will be calculating the salary. They will be preparing all the details inside an Excel sheet. They're placing the employee account number, employee ID, and the salary. How much amount needs to be get credited? They're collecting the whole details from the HR portal. They're placing all the details inside an Excel sheet. That Excel sheet they're sending to the last working day to the bank people. Through an email, they're sending this Excel sheet to the bank employees. Now the bank employees are going to be collecting this Excel sheet. They are going to be passing this to you as a batch programmer. They're passing all this Excel sheet to that batch job. Batch job is collecting this Excel sheet, pick up each and every employee record. It will collect the employee account number. Based on the salary, it will be debiting the amount from the company account that crediting the employee salary account. It will be processing automatically this. For example, they're having some 100 companies are there who are utilizing this ICICI Bank accounts. All the people are getting the salary on the same day, right? Suppose as a bank, as a ICICI Bank, if I'm saying to the TCS people, boss, today is not possible, your employees will get the salary tomorrow. In this case, what will happen? Those people will go to some different application. Because here, the people might be very busy because the people keep on verifying the messages on the last working day, salary is created or not. Okay? Because we're having some EMIs, we're having some plans, weekend plans. So for that reason here, the people keep on verifying the SMS. Now in this case, they need the salary on time, on the same day. Okay? So at that time, processing those many number of records will be very, very faster. If it is taking more time, we can't process all this. So that even though you are having 20 million records, Salesforce will process maximum within 1 minute. Not more than that. Okay?
Can we create a saving ourselves?
If you want, we can implement that one. Similar kind of interfaces. We can prepare our own interfaces.
Which method is used to decide the size of batch?
Now, upon executing the batch, whenever you want to execute the batch, we are using a method like as database.execute batch. Upon execution, we have to use database.execute batch. Here we have to specify the batch class object name, and then we have to specify the size. Okay, we have to specify the size. So depends upon the size. It will be considering this size. Based on the size, records will be getting splitting into the various small pieces. This size should be minimum 1, maximum 2. Not more than that. Okay. Upon executing that batch class, you have to specify the batch size. How many records to be get considered per batch? Okay. Suppose if I'm not passing this one, if I'm closing the method like this simply. In this case, what is the batch size now? 200. 200 will be the default batch is considered first. If you want, we can specify that as a second parameter. As a second parameter, I'm indicating records of 10. So it will be dividing the records to various batches of size 10. Okay.
Maximum
Maximum size is 2000, not more than that. Because here, the number of records they would take to consider within a transaction. If the number of records are more, if one record has been getting failed, then the whole transaction will be getting cancelled, right? So more number of records will reprocess again. That's what here they are going to be giving the sales as 2,000. No, that is the problem. No other problem. If it is a bulk API, we can use maximum of 10,000. Bulk API 10,000. Okay, Apex API 2,000. Clear? Any more questions still? No, right? No. Now let's see the syntax of the batch class. Understood the flow of the concept here? So now let's see the syntax. Whenever if you want to use that batch classes, then what we need to do as a step one, first of all, we have to implement the batchable interface into your class. Okay, we have to implement batchable interface into your class because we are using that batchable interface functionalities inside our class because I want to divide my records to various small pieces called as batches. Those functionalities are available inside my batchable interface. So we have to use that batchable interface inside my class. Okay, now tell me, whenever I'm going to be executing my batch class from outside of my organization, then how can we define that class now? What will be that access specified? That will be global, because that already told you global members can be accessible from outside of that organization. So that here batch class should be always global. It's a common question, why do we need to define my batch class as global? Because batch classes are not executing within my organization, these are executing outside of my organization by maintaining inside a separate place called as Salesforce queue. If you want to make this member can be accessible from outside of the organization, we have to define those members as global. So that we have to define a global class. In that global class, we have to implement the interface database.batchable. Okay. Let's see, as a step one. As a step one, define a global class. Define a global class and implement the class. Implement the class by using database.batchable interface. Database.batchable interface. Then what is the syntax here? Now let me explain. Syntax. Global class name implement. Implement means I'm implementing the interface methods. Database.batchable of yes subject. Is the first step. First of all, we have to prepare a global class. In that class, we have to implement the interface database.batchable interface. Done with the step one. Next, step two. Whenever we are implementing any interface inside your class, as a principle of object-oriented programming language, whatever the methods are available inside the batchable interface, for every method we have to provide the implementation. That means body of the function we have to provide. It's a fundamental principle of object-oriented programming. As part of this object-oriented programming, we have to provide the implementation of each and every interface method. Even though you may use that method, you may not use that method, compulsorily we have to provide the implementation part, or else your class will not be getting compiled, it will be giving the compilation error. It's a fundamental principle. So now as part of this database batch programming, for example, we can raise a question. So as part of my batch implementation, I would like to use start method, execute method. I'm not sending any email, so I don't want to write finish method. Can I do that? No, it won't allow. Even though you may not be sending any email notifications, you are not performing any operation through finish method, just you have to specify the finish method along with the body. Just you have to open the braces, close the braces, that's it. Okay, if you don't want to perform any other operation. Compulsorily, we have to provide the implementation of that interface method. Even though you may use, you may not use. It's a principle of object-oriented programming. Okay, now at the step 2. Provide the implementation for all the interface methods. Provide the implementation for all the interface methods. So what methods are available inside my batchable interface? Start method, execute method, finish method, right? Don't write simply start, execute, finish, okay, because I'm going to be adding some more things. No. So now in this case, observe this one. Come to the scenario. Because it's a common question, they will give you the paper and pen, they will ask you to write the batch class syntax. It's a mandatory question in every interview. You should be able to write the syntax perfectly with all the data types, all the written types. Now, so now that I already told you, when coming to the batch class, we are having these 3 methods available: start, execute, finish. These 3 methods are interacting with each other or not? Yes. How they are communicating with each other? There is a class. What is that class? Start, batchable, and context. So that here, inside this particular 3 methods, you will be having one parameter called as database.batchable context. B context. I'm giving one difference name that is called as a B context. These 3 methods are having a batchable context parameter. Okay. So because this method is going to, this class is going to be establishing a communication channel through which these 3 methods will be communicating with each other. On the communication channel, you will be having the batch job IDs as available inside. Like for example, if anybody is aware of the client server architecture, like a database concept, for database you will be having a client, you will be having a server. Suppose if it is Oracle, you will be having that SQL developer is that client, and then Oracle will be the actual server is available. If it is a SQL server, we are having the SQL Server Management Studio, that is called as the client. You will be having the SQL Server database is available. How these are communicating with each other? There is a communication channel is available. Based on what they're establishing the communication channel, based on the port number. They are going to be having the port number. Based on the port number, they are going to be establishing that communication channel. So that for each and every database, they are having the port number. Suppose if it is an Oracle, Oracle is having a port number called as 1521. For the SQL Server database, they are having a port number that is 1433. Based on this port number, they are going to be communicating with each other. All this client and servers are going to be communicating with each other based on that port number itself. Okay, now. So now getting this. Okay, now getting this. Now, like for example, when you go to that your mobiles also. Whenever you are observing your mobile settings, upon sending an SMS, the SMS will be delivered through a message center. Okay, that SMS will be delivered through the message center. That message center number will be available inside your mobile number itself. When you go to your mobile settings, you will be having that message center number will be available. Through that message center only, your message will be getting delivered to that recipient people to whom you are going to send it. Whenever you are going to be making a call to the other people, then it is going to be connecting to that. How in that communication channel, your mobile's IMEI number will be getting tracked automatically. That means that going to be establishing the communication channel. This is the mobile number which is having this IMEI number. Based on this, from this IMEI number, by using this mobile number, they are going to be making a call over here. So that it will be establishing that communication channel. Okay. So for that reason here, they are going to be using that port number also internally, which will be identifying that based on the port number, they can be able to identify that communication channel. Here also, when coming to that start method, execute method, finish method, these three are communicating with each other with the help of a communication channel, which has been established by a class called as database tag batchable context. And the communication channel will be having the batch job ID. That already told you, all these batch jobs are executing by placing inside the queue. Whenever I'm placing a job inside the queue, queue will be allocating one unique identification number that is called as job ID. Okay, for every comment, for each and every batch job, Salesforce is allocating a unique identification number that is called as job ID. That is also called as a batch job ID. That batch job ID is available along with that batchable context. Okay, in that batchable context class, it will be storing the batch job ID also. If you want to get that batch job ID, we can use the method called as get job ID method inside that batchable context class. In the batchable context class, we have a method called as get job ID. Through that job ID, we can able to get the ID of the job which has been allocated by Salesforce upon placing that job inside my queue. Queue will be allocating one ID. That ID we can track with the help of get job ID method, which is available inside that batchable context class. So that now it is going to be establishing a communication channel along with your batch job ID here. Based on the batch job ID only, that will be communicating with each other by default. Okay, now next one. In this case here, now tell me here. Now when coming to the start method. Start method, what it is doing, it is passing one batch record. Okay, it is passing one batch record. Now in this case, what happened? Whenever the start method is passing one batch record, now execute method should receive that batch record file. How it is receiving the batch records in the form of what? Collection. What is that collection? List collection. So that the execute method is not only having this one parameter, it will be having another parameter called as a list collection. List of a subject. Regards to. Okay. It is having the second parameter. Because whenever the start method is passing that first batch records, execute method should be receiving the batch record. So how it is receiving in the form of a parameter? What is the parameter type? List collection. List of a subject type. Because here batchable interface will be treating each and every record in the form of a subject type, so that it will be receiving the record in the form of list collection of a subject type. Okay, clear? Now after that. Now in this case, when coming to the execute method. The execute method is also of type global. Okay, is also of type global. These are also executing from outside. Now, don't write that global again, because in between that I would like to write one more small keyword. Now, all the three methods are global methods because these are executing outside of my organization. Now, let me come to that execution process. Now. So now here in this case, start method is going to be collecting the records. It is passing the first batch records to the execute method. What this execute method will do, execute method will be receiving this batch record, performing the operations on these records. It is simply committing the batch information back to the database. That means it is not returning anything to the next batches. Simply it is committing the result back to the database. So that here, when coming to that execute method, it is not returning anything as a return type, so that you will be having the return type as void. Okay, return type of this execute method as simply void, because once operations has been done, it will be committing the changes back to the database over here. After that, simply it is indicating the start method. I'm done with the first batch processing. The batch may be failed or successful. I'm not bothered about that. So now here I'm done with the first batch. Please give me the next batch. Okay. Now, after that, when coming to the finish method also. Finish method also not returning anything to you. Simply it is going to be executing that post execution logic. Once the post execution logic has been done, it is going to be just returning that void value as void. Nothing it will return. Now, what about the start method here? Now let's see. When coming to a start method, okay, it is having a return type. So what is the return type? Now let me explain. When coming to the batch program. As part of the start method, we are going to writing some SQL query, collecting all the data from the object, we're making an SQL query with the help of database.getQuery locator class method, and we are placing the records inside the temporary memory. Once the records have been placed inside the temporary memory, I want to return the temporary memory address to my class. What is that class? Query locator class. Database.query locator class. Once the query locator class is receiving that starting memory address, it will be going to the location, it will start splitting the records to various small pieces called as batches. So that as part of start method, collect the records from the database, place inside the temporary memory, pass the data of that starting memory address to the query locator class. So that as part of this method, it is having a return type is available. It is having a return type that is called as database dot query locator. Database dot query. These are the three methods are available as part of your batch. These are the syntaxes. This is the purpose of each and every syntax, each and every parameter. It's a common question. They will give you the paper and pen. They will ask you to write the syntax of batch. Okay, with complete syntax, you have to write. Understood the concept of this batch class? Clear about the syntax? Understood the flow, how it is executing internally, what are the various classes it is using internally, and how it is maintaining the partial processing mechanism internally. If any batch has been failed, what will happen, and how can we allow the partial processing, and within the batch, all these things we have discussed. Okay? Done up to this one? No. The next one is the practical part. Okay, tomorrow we see the practical part of this batch program. So in this case, tomorrow we are going to be discussing about the two use cases. One is how to implement the batch programming, we'll see practically. And between the batches, how can we maintain the partial processing mechanism? Okay, that means how to pass the failed record from one batch to another batch. Okay, for that one, we are going to be using another interface called as database.stateful interface. Database.stateful interface. Because your batch programming is purely stateless implementation by default, now how can we make it as a stateful so that one batch results, how can we carry forward to the remaining batches? We'll see practically with the help of the database.stateful interface. How to use this database.stateful, we'll see practically. So once we're done with the batch programming, then we'll move forward to the scheduling concept and the flex queues and the remaining processes one by one. Okay. Tomorrow we'll see the practical concept of batch programming and with that stateful interface also. Okay.